and welcome. This is the Nisha Jackson Show. This show is brought to you by, TakeBrandX.com. TakeBrandX.com. Check out Brand X. It promotes your brain focus and your attention, your physical recovery, and your stamina. It's like I have it memorized. No, it's right here in the box. That's how good it is. Also,
these little things, you've heard them before, but these are pickup sticks that are part of the Brand X group. And one of the supplements we're going to talk today is actually the supplement you take in the morning called Woke. I just want to interject that.
Okay.
In case you're wondering what this is.
And it's good that you're woke.
Yeah.
Also brought to you by NishaJackson.com, NishaJackson.com, and OnePeakMedical.com. All right, Nisha. It seems like ADHD has gotten worse.
Yes.
I remember when I was a little kid and my teachers told my parents, put me on the drugs, and they took me to a psychiatrist. And I remember I was in kindergarten. I remember playing checkers with the guy. And then he told my mom, I'd rather put you on drugs than that kid. Right. And now that is completely different. Now it's, let's just
put them all on,
get them on there and woo.
Yeah.
All right. Pills for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
What's going on? What has it gotten worse? What causes it? ADHD, that's our topic for it today.
It's weird because I actually was when I was thinking about doing this show, I was going to say, now he doesn't have ADD. I do have some remnants of ADD, some subtle signs of ADD. I have a weird combination of extreme ability to focus, like crazy ability to focus, but also really kind of like a lot of different, I can move between a lot of things. And that kind of sometimes makes you feel like you have ADD. So I just want to talk about today adult ADD. I'm not going to touch the kids. It's a whole nother thing to talk about. And I'm an adult expert, expert on adults and balancing their brain, their body, and their hormones. That's what I love to do. That's what I'm an expert in. And I'm just really interested in it because I think people deserve the right to have their brain work for them. I've always been interested in the brain and what makes it work and how we can harm our brain and how we can connect our brain back up to our body. Believe it or not, it can get disconnected. So I really want to just talk about adults today. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. But ADD it literally is on a massive incline. I think it's an epidemic. I mean, it's a worldwide epidemic, and it's a reflection of the world that we're living in, which is actually gotten quite a bit different since COVID because we've eliminated a lot of distractions, right? It was almost like a massive reset to our brain because we took kids that were literally in 7 to 10 different activities at one time, or adults that were, going to work and then going somewhere after work and then coming home with their kids and then doing this after work and then staying up late and on their computer and then getting up. I mean, their brain was going in so many different directions that no wonder we have brain scramble.
Yeah. If
you think about it. So I think the reason why it's on the rise is because it's just a product of our environment, which I will admit that it has changed quite a bit for people. So I wouldn't be surprised if ADD doesn't get actually a lot better with the world kind of slowing down a bit, unfortunately. So back to ADD. So what is it? So attention deficit disorder is basically like brain scramble. It's, I heard it defined one time as if you have true ADD, it's like 1,000 people screaming messages to you at the same time. And you're just trying to hear one person, but you can't because it's just like, it's so disturbing and it's so confusing. And it's like, it literally just scrambles your brain. So, and to stay on focus and on task with one thing is very difficult because it's like, I'm distracted by this and this and this. So, but there's some things that you need to know about ADD that have a tendency to cause it to be worse. So, one of the things about ADD that I think is also important to understand is that when people can't concentrate, it is likely a cause of a brain chemical imbalance. So before you run to the doctor as an adult and get drugs to treat ADD, it's really important that you try to figure out what you may be low or high in. And one of the easy ways to do this, there is testing you can have done. There's urine testing, there's blood testing, there's saliva testing you can do. The urine testing actually is very interesting. There's several companies that do it now to actually test your brain chemicals. But you could also go to a website. A good friend of mine, she's in the Bay Area, and she's a specialist in the brain, and she's really interesting, and she's written several books, but the book that pertains to this about the brain is called the moodcure.com. So MOOD, mood, cure, CURE.com. So you can go to the moodcure.com, and there's a test. It's a neurometrics test that you can take, just a written test, and try to figure out what you may be low in or high in. Typically with ADD, you're going to be low in dopamine and norepinephrine or norepinephrine. Those are two brain chemicals. Okay. And they have a lot to do with mood too. So if you were to maybe consider optimizing those brain chemicals with some of the things that Dr. Ross recommends on her website, or what I'm going to tell you about today, it would be very interesting to see if you start working on some of the things that maybe helps ADD, and you optimize some of the natural supplements that help balance your brain chemicals. It would be really interesting to see, do you get better without using medication? Or if you're on medication right now, which has a tremendous number of side effects, and you're wondering why now you're on the medication and now you can't sleep, now you have anxiety, now you have depression, which can be side effects of ADD drugs. Maybe it would be a good idea to just think about doing some of the things we're talking about today and the next show on ADD for adults, and just consider reeling in some of those things, because it's really pretty straightforward. And there are supplements. This is my favorite. I'm going to call it the natural ADD drug. It's called AM Stress. And what this does is it has adaptogens. So they support your stress system, your neurological, your nervous system, the stress system. So the adaptogens, the botanicals that are in this supplement, help support that, but they also raise the brain chemical dopamine by using a higher dose of tyrosine, which is one of the ingredients in this. So just this alone, 2 of these taken twice a day is very effective at getting you to focus and getting you to settle down and being able to work through projects. And it's particularly good if you're trying to hammer through something and you're wondering why your brain's just like so distracted.
You say twice a day, or what time of day is the best for that? Yeah,
that's a good question. It actually says right on the bottle here, and you can get this at nishajackson.com or on our medical site, One Peak Medical, ONE Peak Medical Clinic, or the website's onepeakmedical.com. This is taken in the morning, 2 of them in the morning, 1 to 2 in the morning. If you have ADD and you think you have a lot of signs of it, I would take 2 in the morning, and then I would take another 2 in the afternoon. It's not meant to be taken at night, because you don't really need a lot of focus and stamina at night. You really need to be turning your brain off at night. Mm-hmm. So that's what this has. This says AM stress, so it's taken during the day. And this one is PM stress. And what PM stress does is it turns your brain off. So it lowers the hormone cortisol that comes from the steroid cortisol, which comes from your stress glands. And you don't want a lot of cortisol at night because you won't be able to go to sleep. And guess what? If you don't sleep, your ADD is not going to get better. In fact, it's going to get substantially worse. Right. So these 2 together work really good for balancing cortisol and getting your dopamine level up so that you can focus. And so there's also some supplements that work really good to raise norepinephrine. And that is actually explained very well on the moodcure.com's website. And I would just suggest that if you're experiencing problems taking ADD drugs, which they estimate that it's supposed to almost double in the next 5 years, the prescriptions for ADD, because people want more energy, more stamina, more focus. And these medications, they're amphetamines. So it's kind of like the old version of what we would call speed, right? So they're amphetamines and they really rev people up. But the downside is that if you get your dopamine level too high or your norepinephrine level too high, it can cause anxiety, then subsequently depression, because it leaves other brain chemicals too low.
Would you suggest taking AM stress with the medicine that the doctor suggests?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but the great thing is that some people take ADD drugs twice a day, or they're really interested in taking a lower dose because they get these side effects. And you can take this with it. and try to wean off of it or take a smaller dose or just forget your afternoon dose by taking this. So it really helps people find an alternative, because if you take an afternoon dose or a high dose of medication for ADD that's like an extended release, the problem is you can't sleep at night. You can't calm yourself down because you're all like revved up.
Mm-hmm.
And if you load some caffeine on top of that, it's even worse. So there's also the other thing I want you to know about ADD, which is really important because so many people suffer from this and it just makes me so sad, is that you could take AM stress during the day that again enhances your focus and your ability to really get things done and not be so distracted and get some energy naturally. And then you could take another supplement at night. I don't have it with me right now, but it's called Mood, MOOD. So it's like the website Mood Cure, but it's just Mood. But what it does is it raises a brain chemical called serotonin. And serotonin and dopamine, which is what goes up with this, are meant to be balanced. That's why, Rusty, when people take ADD drugs, it raises dopamine, but it leaves serotonin low. And that's why they get depressed. And so many people can't sleep because guess what serotonin makes? It makes melatonin, the sleep hormone. So if you don't have enough serotonin to match up with your dopamine, which is kind of like your get her done hormone, if they don't match up, you're going to have anxiety and depression. So the mood supplement at night and the AM stress during the day balances the things that the ADD drugs are making worse.
And it's interesting that you mentioned melatonin, because I'm hearing a lot of people taking a lot more and a lot higher doses of melatonin than ever before.
Yes. Yeah, because they're so wound up and tripped out on stress, caffeine, and drugs during the day, like ADD drugs, that they can't make enough natural brain chemicals at night, like serotonin and melatonin, to get themselves to calm down and go to sleep.
Wow.
And we'll talk in another show about how you use melatonin, because it's actually good for you, but you need to use it the right way.
Okay.
So anyway, I just wanted to kind of give you the groundwork and sort of the framework for ADD and what we're seeing today. And, you know, a lot of people are suffering, Rusty, from these medications. I'm not saying they necessarily should stop them, but I think they should be aware of the imbalance that they're causing, and they don't need to feel anxious, sleepless, and depressed. You can fix that.
Well, I want to do a show next week on what makes ADHD worse. What are we doing to make things worse on ourselves? You've talked about a couple of things of what you can do to make things better, which again, AM stress, go to nishajackson.com or onepeakmedical.com. PM stress, same thing, nishajackson.com, onepeakmedical.com.
And the mood supplement.
And the mood supplement.
That's probably the most important one, actually.
Really?
The mood supplement.
Okay. All great products, and everything that Nisha has is really top of the line. So make sure you go to nishajackson.com or onepeakmedical.com. And the other thing I want to remind you before we do, and that's Take Your Brand X. Go to takebrandx.com. This helps promote your brain focus and attention and physical recovery and stamina, and it tastes pretty good too.
It's yummy.
Yeah, so the pickup sticks there at...
And they're great for focus. This has a lot of ginkgo biloba in it when it opens up your brain. So this is really good for people that have ADD.
Sweet.
Yeah, and it helps your immune system.
All right, so make sure you takebrandx.com. All right, next week, what makes ADHD worse? Until then, I'm Rusty Humphries. That's Nisha Jackson, and this is the Nisha Jackson Show. Subscribe.